Hey everyone, Pushing Up Roses here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing something slightly different. I will be answering questions from a Q&A post I put on my Patreon campaign a few months ago. If you don't know what Patreon is, the details are in the description, but every now and then I will put out a call to my patrons asking them to ask me questions they're curious about, and then I answer them. And I will be answering these questions to some beautiful, beautiful Treasure Mountain by the Learning Company, because you can never have too much Treasure Mountain in your life, and I just kind of wanted this to be a more relaxed Q&A, so I hope you find it relaxing and interesting, and I will try to answer all of your questions. There's kind of a lot this time, which is why I'm kind of putting it to video game footage and trying to make it more of a relaxing time, because it might go for a while. But that being said, let's get to the questions. I think I have around like 25 of them, so here we go. Question number 1. Do you have any recommendation of YouTube videos or channels for mental health and or general self-improvement, specifically depression and self-esteem, though other areas are welcome too? Let me think about this for a moment. There's actually quite a few videos on a channel called, I think it's called The Mighty. You know what? I'm at my computer and I can just fucking Google the shit out of this. Let's just do that. The Mighty YouTube channel. Yes, I am remembering that correctly. So there were a few videos on The Mighty. I will put the link in the description for you guys. I saw one there, I think it was on OCD, and I suffer from OCD myself. I found it extremely helpful, and so you might find some stuff there. It's actually kind of hard for me to recommend self-improvement channels because I don't know enough about them, but when I'm feeling down, what I usually opt for are ASMR channels and meditation channels. Those are the channels that really, really help me. There are some educational channels, obviously, like The Mighty, and educational websites like Project UROK, but when I'm feeling really down, I really opt for ASMR or meditation videos, especially when my anxiety is at an all-time high. So I hope some of those recommendations help. I wish I could recommend more YouTube channels specifically, but I typically don't go to those because I'm already, I don't know, I do my research basically on websites. I try to find websites that I really like, and I typically don't watch YouTube videos, but check out The Mighty, check out Project UROK, and also check out some of those ASMR videos that are more geared to, you know, things like insomnia and anxiety. All right, next question. Do you consider yourself a warrior, a mage, or a rogue, and why? I'm definitely a rogue. Definitely a rogue, which is probably the least respectable out of all of those categories, but one of my all-time favorite games is Quest for Glory 5, and I can't not play a thief. There is just, I don't know what's wrong with me, that I need to steal things from people, and I need to, you know, sneak into people's houses and pick locks. There's just something highly exciting to me about that, and clearly I'm not going to do that in real life, so I have to do it in games or video games. I play all of the classes in Quest for Glory 5. I've played all of them to see what the endings are and things like that, and I just don't like playing as a magic user. I guess I'm just not a wizard, you guys. Or a warrior, apparently. I am a stealthy, pain-in-the-ass thief. That's who I am. Next question. What is your favorite food? I have a lot of favorite foods. Can anybody really pick out their favorite food? I don't think any person has just one favorite food. Maybe you do. Maybe I'm like nuts and people actually do have like one singular favorite food that they go back to. I suppose if I had to pick, it would be pizza or maybe sushi. I really like those things. And I don't know, I like tacos. I don't have any interesting answer. I just like the normal things that other people tend to like, but I suppose if I had to choose, it would probably be pizza. Considering how much you like skulls, would a video about notable skulls in video games be an idea that you could get behind? Maybe. I've actually thought about that. I'm always trying to think of unique subjects and ideas for videos. I don't think people have talked about skulls yet, but I'm also not sure if there's enough like really interesting or developed skulls that could warrant a video on them. Obviously, we have Murray from Monkey Island 3, And gosh, see, offhand, I can't even think of any offhand. And so my rule generally when I'm tossing around ideas for a video is if I can't think of kind of a lot of things just offhand, just off the cuff, I kind of wonder if it's a good idea. You know what I mean? Because obviously there's a big amount of research that goes into videos, but you have to have a starting point. You have to have an idea of where you want to go. So if I don't have that idea, I typically don't run with those. But yeah, if I could think of more notable skulls, it depends. Do the skulls from, Grim Fandango count? Do skeletons count? Do death characters count? I don't know. I'm thinking just the skull counts, and right now I can only think of one, which is Murray. As both a mystery aficionado and gamer, have you ever checked out the Her Interactive Nancy Drew games? They've been cranking out these for ages now, and I keep meaning to check them out myself. Have you looked at or played them? I own many of them, but I have not had a chance to play them. I know they get incredibly good reviews and they're received very well critically. I just haven't had a chance to look at them yet. How do you decide what video to do next? Are there any that have been on your to-do list for a long time but haven't gotten around to yet? Sorry, I almost said rotten instead of gotten. All right then. Yes, there's always a long list in the back of my head of things that I haven't gotten around to yet, and I don't really have a good method of choosing videos, unfortunately. I always have ideas and I throw a ton of shit at the wall to see what sticks. I'm sorry to use that tired phrase, but that's kind of how I operate. And I absolutely 100% cannot do a video unless it strikes me. Which is why when people ask me things like, oh, when are you going to do a video on Corandia? Or when are you going to do a video on Broken Sword? I don't know. They haven't struck me yet. Something has to really strike me. So I always have a list on the back burner of stuff, and then I'll take a look at that list and I'll see what strikes me next. But a lot of the time, if I choose something from that list, something else happens to come into my brain and I work on that instead. So I don't know, I kind of just wait for inspiration, and luckily I don't have to wait too long for inspiration to hit because I always have ideas. I always have something in my subconscious. But yeah, really I just have to wait. I don't really have a method. I don't really stick to an outlined list because it feels forced when I do that. So yeah, I just kind of wait for something. Without any restrictions to budget, time, etc., what would your dream video game be? Man, people ask me this all the time and I still don't really know. I think a good video game is not really based on budgets or time, but more quality and what you put into it. I'm actually pretty easy to please in that regard. I don't need bells and whistles to have a decent video game, just really good writing and really good quality, really good effort. I think my dream video game would probably be some kind of other Laura Bow game. Maybe a continuation of Dagger of Amon-Ra, see where Laura Bow went, see where Steve Dorian went. It's at least the game that I would most want to see right now. And I would even just like to see some of those games get remade. I know people are really kind of cynical about remakes, but I think some games could really benefit from them. I think some of these old adventure games, the tech is outdated, the jokes are outdated, the voice acting is really outdated, and I really think some remakes could really benefit some of those things. So, not that would be my dream game, but those are the kinds of things that I would personally like to see. What DOS game did you discover in your adulthood and absolutely loved or enjoyed despite your lack of nostalgia towards it? That's a great question. I really liked Street Rod. I recently did a video on that. It's kind of a racing, kind of a greaser game set in the 1950s, 1960s, and I had no previous knowledge of it, none whatsoever, never played it, never heard of it, but I do have a soft spot for racing games for DOS, and so I picked that up and I found that I really liked it. It's not a very involved game, it's not very detailed, but I was really drawn to that and I played it for hours. I think I even streamed it on Patreon and I could not put it down. I found it really enjoyable. And another game that I had found kind of recently, which will be in an upcoming video, yes, intriguing, is Eric the Unready by Legend Entertainment. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because they also did Callahan's Crosstime Saloon, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And Eric the Unready is an interesting mix of graphics and text interface and windows, and It's got great humor. It's actually a parody game that works, and I really appreciate that. And I never played it growing up, so I played it recently and really enjoyed it. So highly recommend that game. They actually released it on GOG not too long ago, much to my surprise. I never thought I would see that on GOG. But yeah, Eric the Unready and Street Rod, really love those games. Future plans or goals for yourself and the channel? Sorry if that's too personal to inquire. It is not too personal, considering this Q&A is, mostly about me and my channel. Definitely not too personal. I don't have any major plans right now. Something I've been throwing around for a very long time that I haven't really made any progress with yet is doing an array of mental illness videos, whether those be kind of vloggy or advice or just educational or to give people perspective. I've always wanted to do that. And right now I've mostly been kind of combining mental illness with gaming or just talking about my personal life and struggles on Twitter, and sometimes those leak into videos. I did a whole video about managing mental illness. I did a video about kind of escapism, and I did some theory videos about mental illness. And so I've been slowly putting those thoughts and ideas into gaming videos. And I would like to reach more people. It's not that I'm not happy with reaching the gaming community, because I think there's a lot of people who struggle in the gaming space, and I think a lot of people connect with what I'm saying. I would like to reach people who don't play video games at all, but still struggle with mental illness. Just anybody who could benefit from listening to me discuss that. But I don't have a good format for that quite yet. I don't have any kind of good outline. I don't know the approach. I don't know how to approach it yet. But it is something that I am thinking about for my channel. And I definitely don't want to create a different channel for this. I already have a strong audience base, and I think it'd be a shame to not, I don't want to say use you like pawns. That's what I'm doing. I don't want to give up that audience base because I think it's a good starting point, and I think that other people will come and find, the playlist or something like that. So that's what I'm currently thinking about. Again, I don't know how to approach it. It's a very scary thing, if I'm honest. I know a lot of people think that I'm doing really well with the mental illness stuff and helping people, but it's honestly very frightening. Every time I bring up mental illness or talk about my body dysmorphic disorder, it's extremely scary. You feel like you're putting yourself out there and being very vulnerable. And so the idea of just a mental illness-based video series is frightening. I'm very apprehensive about it. I think I can do it. I just need some more time to process it and get a good format going. What is your holy grail game that you don't have yet? Interestingly, I recently came into a few of my holy grail games. I put out a video of a room tour of my collection and said that I will be taking donations as long as they're big box PC games and as long as they're not duplicates. And a few really generous people who were about to junk their games hopped in and asked me if I wanted them. So I actually just recently got one of my holy grail games, which is Curse of Monkey Island in box. And I also decided to treat myself. I never do this. I never buy myself anything. I never treat myself to anything. It's rare that I think I even deserve it. But man, I still did not have King's Quest 3 up until last week when I bought it. And that's one of my favorite games. If you're a fan, you already know this. I love King's Quest 3. It's one of my ultimate favorites. And I have so many King's Quest games in box, even duplicates of most of them, but still didn't have King's Quest 3, and it was frustrating me. So man, I went on eBay, I found that shit, and I bought it. And so I have my Holy Grail games now. I have, Grim Fandango in box. I have Curse of Monkey Island. I'm very fortunate and very lucky. And I want to thank anybody who decided to donate those games to me. I really, really appreciate it. I didn't start collecting until, very recently. So it's really nice that people want to help me out, even if it's just to get rid of their big box PC games for space. Thank you for thinking of me, first, and thank you for thinking of me before junking them. I assure you they will have a good home. Where do you fall on the games as art argument? The games as art argument. That's so loaded. I honestly believe that games are art, but I think that some games are more artful than others. It's the difference between having a steak dinner and having a pizza dinner. I think that all games are art because they take from from art. I don't know how else to explain it. There's visual stuff, there's design, you have people writing things. Any kind of video game, in my mind, can be art. That doesn't mean that every game is good art or enjoyable art. And like I said, some games are more artful than others. My scribble of a flower is maybe not as artful as my painting of a beautiful woman. You know what I mean? So yes, I think that all games are art. I don't think that all games are on the same level, just like I don't think all art is on the same level. But when it comes down to it, you are expressing something, you are designing something, no matter what your intent is. I don't really know why there's an argument or why there was ever an argument. I think that just came from a place of kind of wanting to demean video games as a medium. But yeah, I think that most games are art, and I got nothing else to say about that. Wow, that ended really abruptly. What is your favorite beverage? I'm a big water drinker. I'm always guzzling water all of the time. But I suppose other than that, if we're talking, either alcoholic or non-alcoholic, I would say coffee. I love coffee, but I especially love lattes of any nature, of different flavors. My current favorite is a pistachio latte that I get from a local shop nearby. Do you think Needles would like to fight crime with me? No, I don't think Needles wants to do anything that she doesn't have to do. If you don't know, Needles is my insane parrot, and she is very stubborn and very fierce and very fiery. She doesn't like other people. She likes me, but I don't know, she doesn't seem to like other people very much. So I don't think Needles would want to do anything that she doesn't have to do, especially with other people. What are your favorite newer bands and musicians? Ooh, newer bands and newer musicians. Gosh, that's actually a really hard question. I'm not sure I have any favorites yet because it takes me a while to form favorite things. It takes me almost years to determine, what my favorite things are. My favorite band is The Cure, and that's because I listened to them growing up, for years or years. So I could probably answer things like, what newer bands do I enjoy? I like Capital Cities. Are they new? I don't really know. I like OK Go. I suppose they're kind of new. I don't know. They're not really, though. See, I don't know. It just takes me a long time to decide, what's going to fall into my favorites list. So maybe ask me this question in like 10 years or so. Mario or Luigi, and why? I don't really have any strong connection to either character, but when I play Super Mario World, which is one of my favorite titles of all time, I usually stick with Mario. I like to be the first player, so I guess I'm just gonna go with Mario for this one. Stellar or Beatrice? Oh my goodness, Stellar or Beatrice? That's a Space Quest question. I prefer Stellar. I think Stellar is really strong. I think she has more development. You don't really get a sense of all the facets about who Beatrice is, and that might be the fault of the series as a whole, because they never really brought her back. They went in a totally different direction for Space Quest 6. So I'm gonna have to say Stellar. I do question her like for Roger Wilco. I am questioning her taste in men here, but as a character, I like her. I think she's pretty badass. Murder mystery in the Clue-ish form is very much a product of its time. What does the modern mystery look like, or is there even a valid contemporary comparison? That is an excellent question. Clue is very much a product of its time. It came out of the 1940s when noir was very, very popular, and so Clue is very white. It's very lacking in representation. It's very old school. It's always set in kind of this old mansion type of thing. And I think that at least Hasbro, the company that owns Clue now, I think they've made some pretty big changes in regards, or at least they've tried to make big changes to Clue and to the settings and to the characters. And thus far, they've actually been met with hostility. Nobody seems to like it when they change Clue around or try to modernize it. They have made some attempts to help along the representation with people of color and people of minority groups. But anytime they change the setting into modern things like, oh, Clue at the beach, or Clue, I don't know, in like the living room is one of the places, people don't seem to like that very much. I do think that Clue could benefit from some changes. I don't know really how they would do that, because I think part of the charm of Clue is that it is old. It feels old. It feels like one of those old mysteries, and the colonel is wearing a monocle and a top hat, and there's a femme fatale. That's kind of what's ingrained in people's mind. So I'm not really sure what a modern Clue would look like. I do think that changing around the characters is a good idea, and I think they should keep experimenting with that. What is a game you feel caters right to you? One that takes many of the things you love and smushes them into one awesome package. I was just talking about this to someone else, and for some reason, the answer is totally gone from my mind. I forgot what I answered with, but I'm going to go ahead and say maybe one of the Gabriel Knight games or one of the Dagger of Amon-Ra games, because that fuses adventure games, point and click, inventory object puzzles with mystery. And those are some of my all-time favorite things, and humor too. Dagger of Amon-Ra is really on that absurd side. It has some very silly humor, and it's kind of gory and kind of macabre, and it fuses the point and click with the mystery thing. So I think at the very least I can say that those kind of games feel very catered to me, especially Dagger of Amon-Ra or The Colonel's Bequest, because I very much connected with that female protagonist, and now I get to be a detective, which kind of aligns with my wish fulfillment feelings. So at the very least, I can say that definitely those kind of games feel catered to me. If you had complete control over a development company, what game would you have made for you? I'm pretty sure that I already answered this, and I'm not really sure who owns them anymore. I think it's Activision, but if I could take control of I guess Activision or whoever owns Dagger of Amon-Ra, then I would make another Dagger of Amon-Ra game. If you could visit any country in the world, where would you go? I'm not really sure. I've never actually been out of the country. I guess I'm kind of a recluse. I don't know. Somewhere in Europe. I definitely would love to go to Vienna. I can answer, though, for the one city that I would like to go to, and that is absolutely London. And I blame Eagle Eye Mysteries in London for sparking this interest, because I adored that game and I really latched on to the European history they were trying to push, and I really latched on to all of the places in London that we would have to go to talk to suspects. So at least city-wise, I will say London. What upcoming games are you looking forward to in 2018? Oh my gosh, I'm not paying attention to anything. I don't know. I'm sorry. I really don't know. Oh, wait, I got something. Maybe the multiplayer option for Stardew Valley. I know that's not a separate game or anything, but oh my gosh, I am so looking forward to playing multiplayer in Stardew. That's going to be so fucking boss. I am going to farm the shit out of some beans. Have you ever considered doing ASMR? I find your voice to be very relaxing. I have considered it, but believe it or not, despite what you hear online, ASMR is really kind of difficult. It takes a creative mind, not saying I'm not creative, but it takes some creativity, it takes some thought, and I don't know. I've considered it, but it's not something that I think would be fun for me. It's not something I think I would be passionate about. And typically, I really only do videos that I'm extremely passionate and enthusiastic about. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of doing something you aren't proud of or you're not confident in? I think that's just a recipe for bad videos and bad quality. So I know that people enjoy my voice, but I don't think I would do ASMR in any kind of serious way or any kind of long-term way. I might experiment with maybe one video. I have an idea in mind, but of course it's more on the comical side. Have you ever thought about becoming a Steam curator? Nope, never have. Do you like pineapple on your pizza or do you hate it? And have you been asked that question before? I have been asked that question before. And my answer is, I don't hate it, but it's not my favorite. I'm very much a Chicago girl. I like sausage and mushroom on my pizza, sometimes pepperoni, sometimes spinach. Pineapple is a little too acidic for me, and I know that makes sense. The acid and the dairy and kind of the saltiness of the pizza, they all really do work together. I don't really understand bashing people, even in jest, about pineapple on pizza. Who fucking gives a shit? Let people eat their fucking pizza, man. What do you think about the Luigi's Mansion games? I have not played them yet. Since you enjoyed Stardew Valley, would you ever consider playing a Harvest Moon game? I've considered it, but I haven't. That's kind of my life right now. I've considered that, but I haven't done it yet. I don't know. I don't really have any consoles that I could play Harvest Moon on at the moment. Is it on PC? Is it on computer? If it is, sure. But right now I'm just kind of digging Stardew. I'm just really happy with that. I could play that forever and not get sick of it for some reason. I don't know. I have not played any type of game like that before Stardew Valley. You know, I haven't played Harvest Moon. I haven't played Animal Crossing. So I'm kind of in this stubborn state right now where I refuse to go beyond Stardew Valley because I feel like I'd be cheating on my precious Stardew Valley, and I just can't do that. Has there ever been a game you've regretted never getting a chance to check out, either for fun or for critique purposes? I'm not sure. I don't really have any regrets with that because at this point, we can always go back and play them now. You know, emulation is amazing, and I have some old hardware I can play old games on as well. So I can't say I have many regrets. I'm pretty happy with the games I grew up on. It is a little difficult to sometimes review games that I have no nostalgia for because I can't look at them or I can't enjoy them, let's say, the same way that other people can. So I kind of wish that I would have played Torrens Passage when it came out because I never really warmed up to that game, and I know people have a lot of nostalgia for it or things of that nature, really. The same thing happened when I reviewed, Gold Rush. I didn't grow up on that game, and so people were not understanding why I wasn't really keen on it, and it's because I didn't really get a chance to enjoy it when it came out. So I guess there's a little bit of that going on, but in terms of regret, no, I actually find that we're pretty fortunate to be living in this community where we can now emulate games and games are being released on GOG and Steam and we have this chance to revisit them. So it's kind of hard to have regrets, I think, in this kind of modern age. And now for the last question, the very last question. If there was a game like Maniac Mansion where you could team up 3 video game characters amongst all of them, which one would you choose? Which ones would you choose? I would not, to be honest with you. I really don't like games that have multiple characters that I have to control. I get very overwhelmed by that. And I love Maniac Mansion, and I think that's because I kind of know what I'm doing now, so I can kind of enjoy the game in that way. Same with Day of the Tentacle. I've already played it, and I kind of have a sense of what I'm doing. But for new games, I was even overwhelmed by Gemini Rue when I played that when that came out at the time several years ago. But yeah, I don't really like controlling multiple characters in my adventure game. I typically like having just one character that I can kind of connect to. Okay, so I missed a question. I went back and looked and I actually missed one. So this is the final question. So sorry for that little tease there. Thoughts on Southern detectives Laura Bow and Gabriel Knight teaming or pairing up? Good idea or best idea? I don't know if I like the idea of them pairing up. I think they do kind of fine on their own, and I can't really see their personalities meshing very well. But I do like the idea of them being kind of in the same universe, seeing as though they're both from New Orleans and they're both, detective types at the very least. There is a reference in Gabriel Knight's Sins of the Father. If you go to Tulane University, you can see a poster that's saying that Laura Bow will be giving a talk at Tulane, which is impossible, by the way, because they're from 2 totally different eras. Laura Bow is from the 1920s and Gabriel Knight is in the 1990s. So as cute as that is, it kind of bothered me. I would rather there have been a reference to her history or an homage to past cases that she cracked and she died an amazing, respectful death or something like that. So I do like that they're in the same universe. I don't know if I would like them working together. I think they're both kind of loners, especially Laura Bow just as a character. But yeah, I have great love for both of those characters, even though Gabriel Knight's kind of a fucking dick. Let's be honest, he's a dick. Okay, guys, so that is my Q&A for today. I hope you enjoyed listening to me. I hope you feel nice and relaxed after watching all of this treasure mountain footage. I haven't actually aligned the footage to this yet, so I have no idea what you're seeing on screen right now, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you want to become a patron of mine and support the show, make sure this is still going and I have food to eat and seeds for my parrot. Check out the description. Everything is in the details. I have rewards and postcards and streams and all of that good stuff. And thank you guys so much for listening to this. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did and if you liked this format, this kind of longer kind of podcasty format. And if you do, I will consider doing more. Thanks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.